It's up on the street.
Oh,
Me too.
Get started here with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Andy, do you just want to take us through roll call? Here.
Here. Here. Here. Here.
All right, and for the record, we have a quorum. So we do have a matter we have to take care of from from January, actually. So that will be application Z 2021-37, Richard and Arlene Regnier. They want to step forward here.
If I could just interrupt before we start.
Yeah.
I'm recusing myself from being involved in this. I hadn't been participating. I'm sorry. I'm recusing myself from this application because previously on behalf of the township, I had served as special counsel in opposition to some of Mr. Regnier's applications, including the one relating to this property. So I haven't participated in any way, nor will I today.
All right. And I won't be making any decisions here myself. I missed the hearing in January. So just to get that on the record. So Do they have to be sworn in again or anything right now, or?
No, he was sworn in
Okay.
the last hearing. Mr. Chairman, just for the record, so we clarify tonight's proceeding. The January 20th hearing in this particular matter was attended to by Mr. Lynch, Mr. Burgess, Mr. Silk, Mr. Gutkin, and Mr. San Francisco. Three of the participants are present tonight. Mr. Gutkin obviously is not, and Mr. San Francisco also is not. I've talked to counsel for the applicant. He understands that they are not available this evening. He's willing to proceed this evening, and we will provide the two gentlemen that heard the initial hearing in January with notes of testimony of tonight's hearing, and we will exercise our right to reconvene within 45 days for decision-making. Is that agreeable, counsel?
Yes, it is.
I also want to put on the record, as Mr. San Francisco, there was a question raised, and for clarity, he is not present today, but I did talk to him. There was a protestant by a similar name, Mary San Francisco, and there was an inquiry with regard to whether or not that was related to board member, Mr. San Francisco. It was determined that that is an ex-sister-in-law and has had no real contact or is no longer a member of the family. So I believe that clears it up. I've communicated that to counsel for the applicant, and I believe they understand that as well.
Right.
So I just wanted to put those things on the record for clarity, and we can proceed, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. You did.
All right, so we left the record open in January, and the expectation, I think, was to sort of collaborate with some of the other neighbors who hadn't been contacted yet. Can you update us on the progress there?
Well, there's no progress on that end. So nothing with respect to collaboration. I discussed it with my client. There was the response is that there was been collaboration with respect to this property for years. And, this is the proposal that my client wants to present to the board.
Okay. Are there any party protestants here who were here in January or who are new to this case? Okay. Of course, yep. Yeah, so just based on the testimony back in January, is the applicant agreeable to modifying the height, the position, the spacing, agricultural features to make it more appealing to the neighborhood?
I can only speak to the height and positioning. I discussed those with my client, and again, these were items that have been adjusted for years, over a course of 20 years. And this was, the proposal that was at that time, and again, we would submit deemed to be, to meet all the qualifications. And so with respect to agricultural, that one I did not discuss. I know
Or horticulture?
horticulture, yeah. There are, there's trees existing that separate, that are bounding both the most adjacent neighbors that are there now and presumably are not being removed. But so I would submit that that's, that there is trees and screenage between these properties.
May I ask if the applicant is agreeable to maintain those and replace if they survive?
Which, I mean, when you say don't survive, I think that there is one tree that I think is,
I planted that's a dogwood.
yeah, I think that tree is in the area of the driveway.
Yeah.
Now, I would presume that particular one has to come down. If that has to,
Relocated.
yeah, if that has to be relocated or replanted or whatever the case may be, he's agreeable to that.
But you said there's also other trees and vegetation that exist.
It's just weeds, actually. They're literally, I have photographs.
So-
There's no justifiable tree.
Well, I think, well,
They need pruning.
I mean, you can see trees that are, they're on the plan. I don't know.
well,
They look
I
like
just-
trees to me, but I haven't been there.
I guess just let me be clear about the horticultural issue. I mean, would you be agreeable to establish, or maybe you're going to ask that question?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like you were saying, hey, there's existing vegetation, and I'm just clarifying, well, existing vegetation, meaning if it's just weeds, are you agreeing to, keep it like a nice, acceptable, township recommended, if you look at our arborist or our ordinances that have recommendations on trees, you're willing to replace that or maintain that in a way that a nice buffer is maintained.
If I could have a second.
Sure.
I have no interest in.
What are you saying?
No,
You will-
weeds.
You'll maintain.
You tell it was a dogwood by its bark, right?
If something happens.
Let's get that on the record.
Your mic was off.
Minimize the impact on the.
Property.
If you want to say, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
So if you can respond to the question,
I'm sorry.
you can.
Oh, as far as I'm concerned, there's an existing tree that I planted on that property the better part of 35 years ago. The brush that is on the other side is half, basically, not morning glories, but honeysuckle and things of that nature. And it's unkempt. It needs to be groomed. It needs to be taken care of, and that's what I would do. But it is partially growing on the borderline, so I can't answer that in regards to the other property owner. I can only answer from my side.
But to the extent it's on your side, are you willing to
Yeah.
maintain it
Absolutely.
and replace it if it dies?
Yeah,
I guess. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
You said yes.
Yes, yes.
So I think, where if on the property and we're talking about the side yard where the weeds are, or the bushes or the trees, I think a general concern or an immediate concern with the neighbor right there was that now there's going to be an encroachment on the side yard setback. Are you willing to make any concessions for that so there's a barrier, like what are you willing to do to address that neighbor's concern? Because you're asking for a variance that encroaches on the side yard. I know it's corner lot, but encroaches on the side yard. Is there something reasonable you could do there to address that particular homeowner's concerns, where now he has kids and there's going to be a house closer to his and, with windows on that side, technically looking right into his home. And it doesn't need to necessarily even be that side, but what are you willing to do to address the concerns that were brought up by the party protestants and the folks in the neighborhood?
About sightline as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
I think you're fine.
What they're called. Can't say yes.
Andy, did you have, Andy,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I think it's in line.
do you have? Question, I know you would.
I say it's out line.
Want it. All right.
It's not like what we're talking about.
Right.
In reference to your question, I lived in this town over 62 years. I've owned that lot over 40 years. And everybody that's come in there, I've been to the state Supreme Court. I've been to the Commonwealth Court. I've been to every local court. And I've won in every situation. And I don't see any reason why I have to change what was approved what was approved, and that is exactly what was approved.
That doesn't answer the question.
So what I asked specifically are there any reasonable accommodations you're willing to make to address the adjacent neighbors' concerns about sightline and, windows looking directly into their property? And it doesn't need to be that, but I'll give an example. If there was a line of arborvitaes or something.
Would it be reasonable to say that if I wasn't going to bring this up, but
No,
would it
if
be
it-
reasonable to
if I could have a
say?
second.
Same neighbor there 20 years ago.
Okay,
No.
so I'm not agreeing to his.
Okay.
Why
So
should I?
You're not making it.
for the original.
Maintain.
Are you asking me, am I willing to make a consideration? Or are you asking me for a consideration?
I'm asking you if you're willing to have certain conditions that address the neighbors concerned as far as the windows and the, just kind of the property right up against theirs, if there's anything you could do to address that. Which would mean that there might be a condition on if you were granted an approval, that if you agreed to that.
I mean, so the board understands the conditions are things that the board can put in any type of decision that they
This is what we
choose
talked about,
for
40 feet, his
for
house to
the
the property
decision
line.
if you were to
So
make
why
a
should I
favorable
change anything
decision.
about my windows?
They don't have to agree.
Right.
You can place the conditions on as part of the approval process if you should so choose.
What am I
If
giving up?
if
What am I
the
getting?
applicant
What am I getting?
refuses to concede to some sort of understanding, then it's up to you to make a decision accordingly. And I think response here is pretty evident.
Right, got it. Thanks, man.
I mean, is it our, for now, if there is no additional testimony, to take this into consideration and we'll make a decision, what executive session, if you're not gonna.
The record was remain open, one, for
Okay.
additional protestants, and then two, I do have very slight rebuttal. I'm talking very slight, and then an argument, and that's it.
Take us through
I
that.
think we have to do public participation. as
Right,
well.
right.
And yeah, of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if, one of the conditions that I was thinking of is because there was so much testimony in regard to that close proximity to the side yard, knowing that it's a corner lot, knowing that you have dimensional requirements for that reason as well. Is there a physical reason why you wouldn't be inclined to shifting the home closer to Locust to provide a greater side yard setback? If the board were inclined to give you relief on that front yard along Locust.
That's not what he's asking. He's asking if you would move it over.
No,
Okay, he's saying no.
no. I don't see a reason to, since I already went through the state Supreme Court.
Mr. Miller, can you state?
Yeah, the Commonwealth Court.
Commonwealth Court. I did go to the Supreme Court.
I think there was a petition for allowance that was denied. Mr. Sheridan can talk, he knows about that.
All right.
The Supreme Court pushed me back to the
Okay.
Commonwealth Court.
Mr. Miller, would you like to finish up and then we'll allow public comment after you're finished?
I had one question real quick.
Sure.
On the first question about approaching the neighbors, was the answer that you do not feel the need to approach the neighbors because of you didn't try or they didn't respond to outreach? I just missed the response.
My understanding is that they were not responding to, that we didn't reach out. One of the neighbors is on the record, has been on the record.
Sure.
We know the concerns. I mean,
Okay.
we've been over that one for sure. And that's the gentleman at 606.
There was no additional outreach since our last hearing
Correct.
because you don't feel the need to. He does not feel the need to.
I mean, I don't know that, I mean, I don't know if that's relevant, but I guess the answer is yes. He doesn't feel that
didn't
this is the
try.
minimum necessary.
That's fine. He did not make an attempt because he did not feel the need or because he didn't have time.
I think that this is the minimum relief that has been presented, and that's,
Where I feel.
yeah, that's what it feels, that this is the minimum relief. So that there's already been concessions made for over the course of 20 years, and this was what it came to be. I mean, if you want to go back in history, it was
No,
like
I don't.
proposed
I
at
don't.
4 feet, it was
I was
moved
just saying
around. I mean, that's
from-
why. I think this has been adjusted up and down, left and right. This didn't happen in a vacuum.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what you're saying,
Okay.
but that's the
From-
answer.
From the last hearing till now, that's the only time frame I was asking for.
Oh, okay, well then, no,
And no, okay,
yeah, answer's no.
okay, good.
All right, so floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Regnier, as a result of a right to know request to the township, did you receive documents related to the development of the property at 606 Tennis?
Correct, I did.
And I think I would have this marked as A20. I'm going to show it to you. You can hand. I have copies.
Give me these guys.
Miller, you've moved in all A1 through A18?
If I didn't, I was going to.
Okay,
Um,
just to ensure
I
the
think there was a
record.
19, but I think.
Well, this is 19, isn't it?
I thought this was 20. I thought there was a picture, model picture that was moved as 19, but if it's not, this would be 19.
There were, yes, there might have been some.
So if you could take a look at that, are those the documents that you received from the township in response to that request?
That's correct.
And are there plans there showing the addition which was built at that property at 606 Tennis in 2014? Or so approximately? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. And I don't have to ask you anything about that, or make argument about that.
Can I see one?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. There you go.
The neighbor.
Yeah, yeah.
606.
And then my last question is, are you aware of properties within the vicinity of your lot which are built on what are considered undersized lots, according to the R3 zoning district code, and maintain buildings which are the same, similar, or larger in height and size than the home you're proposing to build?
Yes.
And are they of the same, or some of those of the same and similar style that you're proposing to build?
Correct.
And are those properties that were identified and pictures shown in the previous exhibits? I think it's A16 and A18.
They are correct.
I don't have anything further.
Score any.
No, no questions.
So, if I would move those into evidence, if I haven't done so, every A1 through A19 or 20, whatever the case may
I
be.
think we're on 19. This would be 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if the board will allow, just make a argument. Could
ahead.
indulge me for a little bit. I first want to thank the board because I know you guys have been patient with this and all the testimony and public comment. And I know you hear these cases involving the Heights often, and you hear these same arguments over and over. And you've been very patient with us, and I appreciate that. But I think this case is unique in some respects, in many respects, and it deserves attention. And you have given that, so I appreciate that. My client is asking for dimensional relief, as you know, lot area, frontage, side setbacks. It's on a corner lot, so there's additional setbacks involved. And in order to do, he's asking that in order to build a small home on the lot that he's owned for 40 years. And as you know, the essential question in this case is whether the requirements under the zoning ordinance for a variance have been met. I know you're aware of those. I'll just go over them briefly. A necessary or unique hardship, particular to the property, which results of conditions created by the application of the township's ordinance. And because of those conditions, there's no possibility that the property can be developed in strict conformity with the ordinance. And a variance is necessary to enable the reasonable use of the property. That hardship was not created by the applicant, that the variance will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, impair the use of the adjacent property, or be detrimental to the public welfare, and it's a minimum relief. I would suggest that this record shows that we've met that standard. And I'm sure you've heard all of these cases, and I have them if you want them, but there's a lot of cases on this issue. I would just offer Jacqueline versus Horsham Township, which is one of the first. That's 312 A second 124. It's a Commonwealth case from 1973. The relief there was very similar in nature to here. It was dimensional. It was a corner lot, and it was denied. And one of the reasons was, quote, the magnitude of the variances requested, and that there was a claim to be a reduction in the site triangle because the property was on a corner lot. The Commonwealth Court reversed that decision, and what they basically said was, you're depriving this lot owner of its reasonable use. So the variance standards have been met. That case has been adopted over and over again by the Pennsylvania courts. And Rubb versus Lower Gwinnett Township, 578 A second 59. That's a 1990 Commonwealth Court case. West Goshen Township versus Crater. That's 538 A second 952. That's a 1988 Commonwealth Court case. Tennecan Township versus Jones, 723 A second 1068. That's a 1998 case. That list goes on and on. But I would suggest in this case, you don't even have to look that far. You can look at the precedent that was created by the court in my client's earlier cases. And it involves almost an identical plan of development. And we've gone over some of the reasons why that has been deviated from. Now, I'm sure the township solicitor would tell you, and your own solicitor would tell you, that you're not bound by that, those rulings. But I think it does give guidance on how this application would be viewed by the courts here. But the township solicitor at that time, who's in front of us here today, he, in remarks to the residents there, at the time, who were obviously upset about this case, he mentioned that this was challenged, that the township challenged the Court of Common Pleas reversal on the basis that the lot was too small to build on, and that it would impact the health, safety, and welfare of the residents. This is Exhibit A6 at page 11. Said we appealed that argument and lost. And then this board's former solicitor, Exhibit A6, page 15, he went on a long rendition of why the relief was granted in that case. And I think it's very pertinent to the consideration I would ask from this board. Mr. Cordes said, I think I should explain to you that the courts have ruled for a long time that a lot that was created prior to the zoning ordinance of the community, and that lot was a legally existing parcel at that time of the passage of the zoning ordinance. And the courts, federal and state, have all said, or the Constitution contains a provision that the government can't take your property without just compensation. It is in the Pennsylvania Constitution and the United States Constitution. Now, what the courts have said is that if a lot was legal prior to the existence of the zoning ordinance, then that lot can be developed, or the municipality would have the right, let's say, to condemn that parcel, exercise eminent domain, and pay the property owner, but you can't deny a person the right to develop their property in accordance with what their expectations would have been at the time they purchased it. He went on to say, very rarely can you do this on a small lot. That is, turn it down. And I know that people are upset about that, but unfortunately, when these lots were laid out, it was before zoning. And back then, some people didn't think 45 by 80 was unreasonable. He concluded by saying, it's not so much that the courts are overturning our ordinances as so much as the court's saying a property owner has the right to develop the property, and these property owners step into the shoes of the prior owner. And that's the law, and it has been for some time. And he said, my client, and speaking about my client, he said, entitled to build on it as a matter of law. With regard to that 6-foot setback, which is what we're talking about now, Mr. Sheridan said the 6-foot setback was one of the reasons it was originally denied to them by this board. And that went up on appeal, and the appellate court said, no, you have to allow somebody to develop their property. There's a lot of legal authority on that. I would suggest to you that same reasoning, that sound reasoning, that's the legal reasoning that all applies here today. that the zoning ordinance in this case created the hardship such that my client cannot build on this lot without relief from the dimensional standards. And that the key here is that it's a reasonable use. He's allowing a reasonable use of the land. He's proposing to develop a home at a 792 square foot footprint. Under the township code, that's equivalent to less than 4 parking spaces. I would submit that's a small home, and he proposes to build a small home on that property, which fits the physical characteristics that he's dealt with. As demonstrated by the board, by the evidence, including my client's testimony and the exhibits, the fact is that this neighborhood is already has numerous houses which have been built on small lots and are comparable, if not larger and taller, than the house my client is proposing. I point to the board to exhibits A16, A18, which show that numerous houses of similar scope and size, all on undersized lots. One of those houses is literally on the other side of the street and 1 block away. It's 501 Tennis. Unfortunately for the residents of this neighborhood, the character of the neighborhood was changed a long time ago. And these houses are now all over the place. Any argument to that, contrary to that, is just simply ignoring the facts. And with regard to the impact on the neighbors, obviously the board has concerns about that, which I understand, certainly. The stormwater problems in the neighborhood were raised over and over again by the neighbors. That's clearly a problem here. But the purpose of the township's stormwater management ordinance is to make a developer account for the impervious that they're putting on at the property, and they're adding to the area. My client, he's not obligated to fix the neighborhood's stormwater problem. He just can't add to it. His development proposes now a stormwater management control system to account for that additional impervious. And he's agreed that he's going to meet the township standard if he's granted the relief here and when he builds the property. On top of that, I would suggest that regardless, the law says that can't be a basis for denial. That's Schatz versus New Britain Township Zoning Hearing Board of Adjustment. That's 596 A second 294. It's a 1991 Commonwealth Court case. The argument there was that the zoning application was deemed not to be in the best interest of the municipality or public welfare because it, quote, does not have adequate sewage capacity, does not address the stormwater management, water supply requirements, and may not meet the building code. The Commonwealth Court said such issues are to be addressed further along in the permitting and approval process. And that would apply to some of the other concerns that were raised by the residents. That's building code. There were some fire safety issues, windows, ingress, egress, those kinds of things. Those will be, I would suggest those would be handled by the township code enforcement officer, and my client has to build to those standards regardless. It has nothing to do with the dimensional relief. Specifically with regard to the 6-foot setback and impact on that particular neighbor, that issue, as I addressed, was already brought before court, and it was viewed as not a valid basis for denial. I'd point out also that while that 6-foot setback, I understand it seems close. That's Exhibit A20 or the A19. I highlighted to you to show that in reality, his property, his home is 45 feet away. That's that's the entire width of my client's lot. You put that next to his house, that's how far away his actual residence is. There's a driveway, there's an existing garage that's literally on the property line. It's existing, it's non-conforming. He has a non-conforming lot. He has a non-conforming lot as to lot coverage and frontage. And that brings me to the other point, which some of those documents reveal. If you look at those documents, he's obviously voiced his protests, and I understand those. It's 6 foot from his property line. I get that. He's on the record in 2006, 2011. If you look at the notes of testimony, he was given faulty information by someone saying they can't build on that lot. The person he specifically says, I believe in the 2006 notes, I was told by the person I bought it from, who is his neighbor now, they're never going to build on that lot. He was given faulty information. So, I can understand you show up, someone's trying to build from your property. But here's the issue. And again, he has reasonable concerns, but I would ask the board to view those concerns in this light. My client was given relief. He could have built on that property. His right to build on that property was extended by Act 46 of the Pennsylvania legislature, because if you recall at that time, the market downturn, they extended all the rights in which you could exercise building permit rights. He came to the township and built an addition, knowing that his neighbor had the right at that time, literally at that time, he could build within 6 foot. But he builds an addition, which is actually would move him closer to the property line. I think that there's something that needs to be considered by the board when you view how, one, he's much further than when you think 6 feet. It's about 45 feet. And he's building knowing that he could have built, that this property was going to be built. That's his thinking at the time. Oh, this property is going to be built. I'm going to move my property closer. I would suggest it doesn't make sense. So, in summary, I would just suggest that my client has presented a case here for reasonable use of his property with a footprint that's less than 4 parking spaces, that it's the minimum relief necessary, that he's putting in the stormwater controls that were a concern way back the last time. That was one of the main concerns. Unfortunately, this lot was created so long ago, this wasn't contemplated about these kinds of issues, clearly. But he's bound by the physical characteristics of the property. So moving the house one side or the other, back up or forward, it creates an encroachment in the setbacks no matter where you go because of the negative building envelope. And if you move it closer to the road, that presents another condition. I mean, you can't. I would suggest that it's not appropriate to have the house too close to this roadway. So that's one of the reasons why the 6 foot was determined. And I would suggest that that's why it's reasonable. So with all that, all the evidence, I appreciate you listening to all this. I would suggest we're presenting the best plan possible under the circumstances and how this property is fixed. And then on a corner lot, it's just a difficult area. And that we've met the relief, and I would ask that the board grant that relief. Again, thank you.
Do we have anyone here making public comment on this application? And
So, I mean, it's up to you as the board to determine whether they've made their case as to whether this minimum relief necessary. I'm not going to fight that. You know what the standards are. Review the evidence and make your determination. I think there's a couple of things that we've heard that, concerning that, that I sense an apparent disregard for the impact on the neighbors, understanding that all development or all construction has impact on the neighbors. It doesn't sound like there's a willful intent to reduce any impact on the neighbors. That's what I get. So some of the things you can look at if you're inclined to approve this application are how can you improve this and minimize the impact, because there are, he's encroaching on setbacks. He's closer than what otherwise a house would be allowed to be able to build. It's a tall house, right? He wants to be able to go up to 35 feet. I haven't heard any testimony as to why he needs 35 feet. That is our code. He's not asking for a variance to go up to 35 feet. I leave it to you to determine if a reasonable condition is to lower the height. I know before he agreed to limit it to 27 feet. I'm not suggesting he should be limited to that, but something that I think you can consider. Trees and vegetation. There's no street trees around this. So you have this, what could be perceived as an opposing property, a big house on this small lot. Is there a way to buffer that? Not just on the border between his adjacent neighbor who is complaining, hey, this is only 6 feet from my property line. We already talked about some vegetation there that he agreed to maintain, but are there ways that trees could actually just break up the appearance of the house so that it doesn't just have that visual impact of this big structure sitting in the middle of the neighborhood, this tiny little lot? And we have a code that talks about street trees and what they should look like and how not the brand, but the type, the style, the species of the tree. And if you look to our land development code, it gives suggestions on what type of vegetation should be around a house. So I would just encourage you to look at all those issues and make conditions as you deem appropriate if you're inclined to grant this, to minimize the impact of the neighbors of putting what would otherwise not permitted without a variance. The other thing, just a couple of things, the driveway is proposed to be on the side of the house. And I mean, I think that is the appropriate location where it's depicted, but I think there should be a restriction that there should not be any other parking permitted in the front of the property, expanded into the future. It's only, I think, a 17-ish foot setback from the right of way. Car would hang into the right of way if it was parked out front. So I think parking would have to be limited to that side driveway where there's adequate depth. And also the plan itself, I know that's not why he's here. He's not seeking recovery for this. But the plan itself, if you look at the northeast corner of the property, there's that cross hatching on his plan where he intends to extend the yard out and make the, see the cross hatching there on that bottom right corner. He wants to extend that yard into the intersection. And I think that that causes concerns about the ability of trucks and EMS personnel and delivery trucks to be able to make those turns. So I'm not suggesting that you put a restriction. I'm just saying, I think you make it clear that any relief you're giving is not related to that cross hatching. And he didn't ask for relief related to that cross hatching, and just, I think it should be made clear that that's not being granted. It always becomes an issue as to what's been granted, what's not been granted, and then it's always a fight later. So that's all I have tonight.
Yeah, making public comment on this.
He was.
Oh, you're protesting, so. Okay, yeah. Step up
Come
to
on
the podium.
microphone.
I don't even know what's going on right now. I just came in late. I just found out about this. Thing font. BONNER. I thought someone-
He was a party protestant, so.
Someone was supposed to
Can you-
come to me
Yeah,
with information before this meeting. They weren't they? Supposed to come to me, Nick, and something before now?
We left the record open in January and we're not allowed to stipulate this, but our suggestion was that there be some collaboration between the applicant and the neighbors. And the applicant made it clear that there was no collaboration attempted by their part to the neighbors. And the board, we heard that and we understand that.
were you here in January?
I was
Yes.
here.
Then you didn't really miss much. I mean, tonight just kind of recapped that. So honestly, you didn't miss anything, so. We were literally just wrapping it up because we're gonna take everything, from tonight under advisement and make a decision within the next 45 days, so.
Do you have any questions with regard to the applicant's testimony from tonight?
I didn't hear,
Okay, well,
but
you were here in January. You knew that this was going to.
oh, I didn't know it was tonight. I didn't know. It was tonight. I got postponed again. I thought for the 24th. But no, I just heard about the driveway and this and that. I have huge water concerns. That's my only thing. I have huge water concerns with my property because his property going there, all the water from everywhere runs down.
So we are aware of the stormwater management, which will come up during the permit process. And that every time we have these zoning applications, this is what comes up for everybody. It will be handled for stormwater management. That's something they're going to have to go through in the next phase of this project if they're approved. So just know that that's something that isn't taken care of here, but will be addressed if this is approved and they move forward.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Totally against, I mean, I'm not against the property. I just don't want my property. I mean, he could just come to me and say anything, work something out, give me some idea what's going there. This man doesn't even have nothing, won't even, I don't know, he says I'm a part of some elite club in Newtown Square. I'd love to know who the hell it is.
Well, I don't want to, we don't want to go down this path again, but we have everything.
But it's really irritating to me. I'm a nice guy. I don't cause no trouble in the neighborhood, especially to this man. I fixed the street. I did everything. for the neighbors.
Everything from from January is being taken under advisement. We're Believe me, we understand. So, all right. Thank you. All right, so just, we're gonna close out the record.
Yeah, you can close the record if there's no more other public comment. You have 45 days to render a decision with stipulation from council. We're going to provide tonight's notes of testimonies for the other two members who were present in January, and we'll reconvene next month.
All right, thank you. And just before we do go through the next application, I'll read through this one time, basically, so everybody understands the difference between somebody wishing to make public comment and be a party protestant on an application. So I'll just go through this, and if something comes up and you wish to be either somebody making public comment or a party protesting, you understand what it is. So public comment will afford the opportunity to any member of the public to comment on the application once the record has been closed. Public participation is applicable to individuals who do not have any direct or substantial interest in the application, would like to voice their position. Anyone wishing to be a party protestant must be directly impacted by the application and adversely affected by the decision. Those granted party protestant status will have the ability to cross-examine witnesses, present their own testimony and evidence, and be able to appeal any decision made by the zoning hearing board. So I'm just going through that one time, and obviously as we go through each case, we'll ask if there's anybody wishing to be a party protestant or make public comment. If you are a party protestant, you'll be asked to step forward to the podium, give your name and address, and you'll be sworn in. All right, so we're going to move on to our next application, which is Z 2021-29 Muirwood Hills HOA, 216 Clermont Drive, pertaining to the subject property. The Homeowners Association is seeking variance approval to allow signs in excess of the provisions of section 172-122A subsection 1. The applicant also requests relief from many other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject premise is located in the AO zoning district. Who do we have here for this application? Are you here for Muirwood?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so if you want to step up here, and who do we have here? If you don't mind stating your names once you get to the,
Once we get settled here.
yeah. And while you're getting settled, Andy, is the file in order?
The file is in order. We do have that photograph of the notice being posted on the property. This includes the application, the proof of publication, and the mailing list.
All right, and Sam, if you,
Yeah, for the record, based on the information provided by the township, I would ask that those records with respect to what Andy just testified to be marked T1 through T4, a part of the record.
okay. And if you don't mind stating your names, and we'll have you sworn in once you do that.
Okay, my name is Rosalind Kazanides. I'm the secretary, okay. The whole name, Rosalind, C as in Charlie, O, Z as in zebra, Anitis.
Ira Feinberg. IRA. Nope. BERG. Middle initials O, so it's O Feinberg today, but that's not. Yes.
Yes, we do.
All right. Floor is yours.
Okay, we are both members of the board, and we are here to request the variance to install a larger front entrance sign. We started this process in August of last year. At that time, we wanted a front sign and a rear sign, but in doing redesign, et cetera, the front entrance sign has gotten so expensive, we're just going to do the front entrance sign at this time. There is the artwork for the sign that we would like to install. The developer left us with just a very small little post with a little sign that says Muirwood Hill. You can barely see it, and it's not very visible when you're driving by on 252. All of our homeowners have asked for better signage. It's very difficult to tell people where you live when there's not a good sign for them to see. Our three closest communities all have large entrance signs. They are the station at Newtown Square, the apartment complex, which is next door to us, Terraza, which is a condominium complex, which is next door to Station. Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Go ahead, take it. No.
No, that's all right. No.
They're calling from that.
Let me turn that off. I'm so sorry. And the other community is Springton Point Woods, which is across 252. So that's our story. And we're hoping that you will approve our new entrance sign.
Is this lit?
No, there is no lighting in the sign itself.
Okay. And so overall, it just trying to look at this here. So it's just trying to figure out how much it exceeds the allowed signage for the township. And Andy, I don't know how much we're going over.
This is the new artwork. There was 2 renditions. This is the latest. I believe this is the current.
Yes, this is
Artwork
what
that
we,
we're looking
this
at.
is current, yes.
I think there's 2 things at play. The area of the sign is 24 square feet, 6 feet by, it's just about 24 square feet. And our ordinance up under subsection C limits it to 20, so they'd be looking about 3.5 feet to 4 feet of variance relief. And then I believe you have 2 signs on the property suggested of 1 at each entrance.
No, at this time,
Just one.
we
Okay,
just
sorry.
want the front entrance sign, and we'll rethink what we want to do in the back at a later period.
And I apologize. I didn't ask if we had anybody here as a party protesting on this application or wishing to make public comment. Is there anyone here for that? All right. Sorry, just forgot to ask in the beginning there. All right.
I'm sorry, we don't have the exact dimensions of the neighbor sign, but visually it's very comparable. It's not
Yes,
out
I
of,
would
Is-
say they're bigger.
And it's going to be in the same location as the existing Muirwood
Yes.
Hills sign.
The same location. We're going to
Okay.
remove that post, destroy it, and put the new sign.
I guess my only question is, and Andy, maybe you can answer this. Is there any concern about visibility for people turning left out of like onto 252 from that driveway? Like, will it obstruct?
There was a site plan provided with the application, but it wasn't very clear. It didn't have a lot of dimensional requirements. So if the board's inclined to granting the variance, I would just make a suggestion that it remain outside of the clear site triangle and also outside of the street right away.
there's also no left turn permitted out of
Okay.
that spot. Actually, there's a sign, you can only make a right turn coming out of Muirwood.
However, there is traffic that travels
Sure,
northbound
sure.
on
Yes.
252. They
You need to
do have
look
to view
if you're making
that
it right.
oncoming traffic.
Yeah,
100% right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, no, this sign.
just because it's
absolutely
on,
not.
it's on the south side of that intersection. That's,
It-
Yeah.
I can't imagine that it would impede
Right.
people's visibility.
Just have a quick question. So the township ordinance calls for 20 square feet. You're asking for 24 square feet. So is there a reason you can't just do square feet? And not
I mean, I'm the worst design visualizer, but part of that is to ensure enough height that it's visible, because there's some rolling grounds around there. So the bottom part of that under the sign, as you can see it, that does add to the square footage.
Right.
But it's necessary, I think, for visibility.
You're asking for the least amount of.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Andy, it was only the square footage. It's not, if there was a second sign, is that we were going for the other
Yeah, that was,
potential?
that
Okay,
was
there's not.
my mistake. I thought there was 2 signs proposed, one at along Gradyville and one along 250.
Okay, just making sure.
Right, yes. Original.
Yeah, that's fine.
turn your mic on.
If I could, I'd like to make a motion with regard to application Z 2021-29. The motion is to grant the variance sought by the Homeowners Association to approve, to allow signs in excess of the provisions of section 172-122A1 at the front entrance. And it would be conditioned upon that they stay outside of the clear site, triangle, and right of way.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. We've been trying to get this signed for so long.
And then there's a 30-story building.
Yes.
Thanks again.
No problem. All right,
Hopefully not.
next,
Insurance, but we can build it back.
next application is Z 2022-04, Matthew Salerno, 217 Fourth Avenue. Pertaining to the subject property, the property owner is seeking variance relief to construct an addition within the front yard setback of 45 feet as identified in sections 172-34B, subsection 5, and the definition of a corner lot, section 172-2. Applicant also requires relief from section 172-34B, subsection 3, for the total building coverage limitation of 20%. Applicant also requests relief from any other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. Subject property is located in the R3 zoning district. Do we have Mr. Salerno? You? All right.
Yep.
And,
He's Tom, it's my architect.
okay.
The drawings.
So if you can both state your name and get you sworn in.
I do.
I do.
Thomas Wiedemann, Wiedemann.
And Andy, is the file in order?
Yes, again, the file is in order, and we do have exhibits up on the screen that include the application, the proof of publication, the posting, and the mailing list.
All right, and Sam, if we can have that admitted into
On
evidence.
behalf of the township, I would ask that they be marked A1 through A4 and made part of the record on behalf of the township as township record.
All right, and do we have anyone here for this application wishing to make public comment or party protestant? No one? Okay.
Does that mean you're entering your appearance or not?
All right, sounds good. Mr. Salerno, floor is yours to take us through.
It was my parents' house, was built in the early 70s, purchased a house. And my sister currently lives there. And I have 4 kids, so I'm inheriting my sister as well. She has MS. So the house is just, 70s house is just very small. It's very compartmentalized. So we're looking to do renovations. And basically on the side, the addition on the right-hand side is basically going to be like an in-law suite for her, like a 1-story bedroom and so forth. And basically, in the top floor is basically why I'm up to doing it. The addition, I'm going to put a 2nd floor and put a master bedroom in there and so forth, and then just do interior renovations. And I guess the variances with the side yard, I guess it's still considered, 2 frontage. And so therefore, we're looking to do the addition there, and I still think that there's pretty significant I still believe that there's still significant, I don't know what the exact distance is from the property line, but I don't think it's encroaching.
If I may, best way,
Yeah.
if I could help, this is a corner lot that borders both Berman Street and 4th Avenue. It is therefore it is a corner lot that requires by our ordinance 2 front yards, distance of 45 feet between the right of way and structure. So if you can see, the front yard as shown from 4th Avenue has a distance from the right of way of 41 feet 4 inches. That would be extending that existing non-conforming line. See, there's an existing patio and porch there, and the new hash mark outline of the new building. The bigger question in my mind is the front yard along Berman. Therefore, they're extending the existing building by 13 foot 6 inches, and it'll give them a front yard from the right of way, 17 feet 8 inches. So that's the crux of the issues with the front yard. And then the second item would be that this new construction will take them over the allowable building coverage. The township ordinance limits it to 20% in the zoning district R3, and with the new construction, it'll be 22.8%.
That front yard setback you're saying was gonna be at 17 feet is,
You can see where this is a plan that I originally reviewed. So you can see I circled the 17.8 and noted it 45 feet.
and do you have additional items you want to take us through? I know you brought your architect.
No,
with
it
you
was
to
just,
really.
no, I mean, that was just the crux of it, is figured I'm here with one shot at it, so I just asked him to be here
Okay.
just in case there was anything in particular.
Was there any consideration of scaling down to meet the requirements with regard to the building coverage?
I mean, ideally, I mean, the addition itself is like 13 feet, which is basically a pretty modest, small room. And if I go any smaller than that, then I guess I'd be encroaching and having to do additional renovations in the interior of the house. So, again, with the size of the yard itself and the openness of the side yard, which is really where we're encroaching, I thought it was.
And I think the main problem with working this out was that they needed so much extra space on the first floor. But she needed an accessible master suite. And, you know, with the two families together, they wanted to expand the kitchen a little bit in the back. And that's really where we went over with the square footage. It's right there. It's 2.8% over. So it's.
So is this space to accommodate some of the other interior design aspects of what you proposed?
Basically, it's, you know, everything on the side there is the master suite for his sister, you know, room, closet and bathroom, everything, you know, it's got to be slightly bigger. And then in the back there, we just expanded the kitchen, so.
But is it a separate quarter or is it integrated within the house? itself?
Integrated within the house. There's going to be a pocket door and so forth in the house, so it won't be two separate residences. It'll just be, you know, she'll have her own separate entrance coming in off the front porch, and then there will be a pocket door in the, as you can see, there's a pocket door there that connects to her living area to the other area.
Have you talked to any of your neighbors?
Yeah, I see them all the time, and they're happy. Like, I mean, it's an old rundown built house, and it's going to look nice, and it's not going to be too close. So I've spoken to all the adjacent neighbors that we have.
No opposition?
No opposition.
I think another thing to note too is that street actually ends right at your house. It's not like a through corner that you need the sight lines for. There's really not much traffic at all there, and it dead ends right there. Road doesn't continue. Street.
Anything you feel with this changing the character of the neighborhood or lining up with anything else that's there?
No, I think no, I mean, like I said, the house hasn't really been touched in 30 years. So I think actually it's, you saw pictures of it. It's the old yellow rundown. And so as the addition goes on, it's going to be renovated. And I don't think it's going to be significantly larger than all the houses there. And I don't think it'll be, I just think it'll fit in really well with the rest of the, I mean, you know, with those avenues, well, the houses are getting older, so you're starting to see a little bit more renovations, and as new families are moving in. So forth, as I said, the ages of all the old houses are probably in the late 60s, early 70s. So.
Yeah, I mean, because, so basically, the addition in the back, just so it's also known, is a one-story addition. It's not two. It's going to be, there's just no need, so, what you see, the hatched area in the back, will just be like a smaller pitched roof that'll just be, basically starting underneath the second-story windows. And then the other side, the reason I went back is because if I didn't, I need to go back further to give her a living space. And so therefore I was like, well, we'll extend the kitchen area, and just make that a one-story. So that's just one story over there.
When I was looking at this application, I saw the reason that was stated, as you said tonight, that you want to try and accommodate your sister because of the difficulty she's having. But I also, from here, listening to you and looking at your situation, see, it seemed to involve just expanding the house because the family's getting bigger than the house easily accommodates.
It's basically, I mean, it's all the above. I mean, it's the expanding family with the 4 kids and inheriting my sister.
Correct.
And so the house needs to be renovated and expanded. So we're just not all on top of it. And she just needs her own living quarters.
And I can appreciate that. But that's why we're here, because when you're dealing with a code that sets out what's supposed to be allowed for when
Right.
people renovate. So I'm wondering is there any way to differentiate either by yourself or by your architect space that would be required to accommodate your sister's need versus other reasons you may have for the extent of the renovation you're doing?
Want me to take
Well,
that? You want to go ahead?
Yeah, everything on the right for the most part is for your sister, or his sister,
Including the second floor?
except the second floor.
Okay,
But from the building coverage perspective, it wouldn't change.
Right, you're still encroaching.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I
I
get
just
it.
added to it. So
Right.
that's,
And then the back, I think it's an extra 9 feet on the kitchen. That's for the family for the most part, but also it's going to make it easier for his sister to get around. We've got extra space around the island, and, it's got the pass through on both sides.
Oh, it would have looked weird if you just bumped out for the bedroom and nothing lying up to it either. So I get that.
thank you.
Can you suggest what the impact of the building coverage and the increase in building coverage may have on stormwater?
It really shouldn't have much. I mean, you're at an extra 2%. You're going from 20 to 0.2, 0.8. I believe there'll be some stormwater management anyways.
So you understand that's part of the permitting process.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're doing everything,
Yeah.
document everything the right way and submitting the permits. That's why I met with Andy in the front end of this, so we didn't go too far down the road and approach him with, we already knew what we're going to require a variance, so.
You have any protesting?
No, I did ask. Oh, you are? Are you, now, is this for public comment or you want to go on the record as a party protesting? Which, well, then hold on. We'll get to that.
Have to walk all the way back.
That's fine.
Yeah.
We'll just in keeping things in order, we just want to do our public comment at the end.
Is there a new porch on the side as well? New porch? Something says new porch on the left side of the.
On the left side, yes.
Left
So
side,
right
yes.
now, it's a paved driveway, so it's not just a side yard. So it's a paved driveway. So the porch on the front, basically, I was just gonna replace the asphalt with concrete and just kind of just wrap it around. That was the thought there. Because it's just, no
I see.
cars ever park all the way up there and it's.
That's not
It's all
any
breaking up.
setback for that.
I do think that's something that I didn't pick up when I did the review. I didn't notice that. So that would be another encroachment into that side yard.
On
Now,
the-
the corner lot, they get to choose more or less. They have one side yard and one rear yard. But the side yard minimum side yard requirement in R3 is 15 feet. So that porch can actually extend. There's a requirement in our yard definition that it can extend into a side yard. Porch may not exceed more than 36 inches into a side yard by our definition. So if the required side yard is 15, it would be limited to 12. So there are a few inches into the required side.
Yeah, and I think it was supposed to be 3 foot. I don't know.
Is the front of the property Fourth Avenue? Yes. Okay.
So,
As you would normally look at the front of a home where the
Right.
front door is.
Yep.
But by our ordinance, there's 2 front yards.
So based on the site plan, the side yard setback on the left is 15 feet. And on the right will be 17 feet, 8 inches with the porch, right? So isn't that within, or am I looking at this wrong?
Front
See
yard.
that 11-8 up there? That's what.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's a 3-foot porch, right? 15.9 in the house. And 8.
Incorrect, I
That would
think
be
you
4
said.
foot 1 porch, right? 3 foot.
It should only be 3 foot. Yeah, I think is it 15.9? Yeah. But we can cut that back. I don't know how it ended up.
Would that help with the square footage in any way? Coverage? Is that taken into consideration with coverage?
Is that a part of our being, what,
Not that it would be much,
22%
but
of?
I'm making progress.
Yeah.
would you say that the primary hardship is accessibility for your handicapped sister?
Yes.
That's the primary hardship.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't mean to be, insensitive, but is there any repercussions that the township would face or that the board would face for not giving reasonable accommodation under ADA requirements or anything like that? I'm asking Rich or Sam.
Well, the applicant is not the
Yeah, I got you.
one
Okay,
asking for the reasonable
I
accommodation.
understand. Okay,
But it's certainly something to consider.
Americans with disabilities.
Yep.
Fair housing amendments.
Yep.
They do require.
Yep.
Reasonable
okay. I just wanted to ask a question on record.
Certainly not out of the question.
Okay.
Any additional questions or concerns on this application? We're going to allow for public comment. All good, all right. Go ahead.
Diane Riccio, 209 Fourth Avenue, Newtown Square. Next door. Known him his whole life. His sister Michelle does have MS. She will, God willing, die in that house. That addition needs to be that size because she will be wheelchair bound. And as far as the porch on the other side, if you notice there's the driveway. I think, can't go to the bank on this, it's a long time ago. I think the original builder of their home got an original variance for the driveway. So I don't know if that would help with the fact of the porch being over there, since it was given a variance for the driveway to go up alongside. So, of the setback, the driveway is already over there. So I don't know if that helps or not, but I think that there was a variance originally to allow for the driveway. So he'd be putting the porch where the driveway is. But, it is legitimate and None of the neighbors have a problem with it. Michelle came home from the hospital 2 months premature, 2 months premature to that house on Christmas Eve. And everybody knows her, everybody loves her, and the whole neighborhood, will help take care of Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Got her sitting up here with you. So I guess we can close out the record. I mean, he does want to make a motion.
You gentlemen have the choice.
Yeah, if
to
we
defer.
can discuss
so
this and make a
choose.
decision, yeah, within the next 45 days. So we're just trying to figure that out if we have any.
I'll make a motion to approve application Z 2022-04 with the stipulation that the side porch extends no further than 3 feet into the side yard, different than what's depicted in the site plan.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. Good luck.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Mike, you voted, right?
Yes, I did. I voted yes.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Our last application, Z 2022-05, Henry DeVoe, 318 First Avenue, pertaining to the subject property. The property owner is seeking variance relief to construct a residential accessory garage within the front yard setback or 45 feet as identified by section 172-34B, subsection 5, and the definition of a corner lot, section 172-2. In addition, the applicant request relief from section 172-34B subsection 3 for building coverage, as well as section 172-103B subsection 3 and section 172-103F subsection 6. The applicant also requests relief from any other sections of the zoning ordinance that may be realized during the zoning hearing process. All right, and who do we have here? Mr. DeVoe is that.
I'm Henry. The last name is DeVoe, DeVoe. And this is my, it's actually a big B.
I am Brendan Neepsey. Neepsey spelled with a K. Neafsey. I'm the contractor for Henry.
And Andy is the, oh, Dad, sorry, you want to get them sworn in?
I do.
No problem. And Andy is file in order.
Yes, the file is in order and we have exhibits to enter. They include the application, the proof of publication, the photograph of the posting of the property, and also a list of addresses for mailing.
I would ask that the material on behalf of the township be marked T1 through T4 and accepted into evidence on behalf of the township as exhibits.
Right. And do we have anyone here who wishes to be a party protestant on this application? And anyone who will want to make public comment? Possibly. All right. We'll get to it. Okay.
I'll be here on behalf of the township again, not necessarily opposed, but.
What, do you have nothing else to do? All right. So, Mr. DeVoe, the floor is yours.
So I have an existing garage, as you guys know, that I think is a complete eyesore to my neighbors. It has holes in the roof. This thing is pretty much not even safe to my neighbors. I think it's about to fall over pretty much. So I'm proposing to get a slightly bigger garage and just kind of shift it over into the yard, which I think will actually improve the neighborhood, and all the neighbors are on board. I actually have letters from my neighbors that think that it's a good idea to go forward with this garage.
Do you have those with you?
I do, yeah. I don't have copies for everyone, unfortunately. I just have, I can give them to you here. This is from eight of my neighbors that just, they're all the same, and just signatures, addresses.
Okay, so there are 8 different and they are all in favor.
Yes, there's, yep.
Can we mark these A1 in unison since they are all the same, just similar signatures? You want to make them part of the record?
Yes.
We'll accept them into the
All right.
record as A1. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to mark them.
Mr. Mesco, can I interject? And just
Yeah,
kind of
please.
Give you an outline. I previously done a building permit application review, and I communicated with Mr. DeVoe the items that during my review that I found that were not in compliance, and suggested that he either revise this application or appear before you under this application. So I guess the first thing, again, we're dealing with a corner lot, 45-foot front yard setback, the R3 zoning district. So the first item would be the front yard setback of that new structure. Can't really tell from.
You go down to
what
more
the setback
pages.
Is shown, and the right of way is not necessarily shown on that. So obviously the front yard setback encroachment is the first issue. The second item would be that the R3 zoning district limits detached garages to 1-story, 500 square foot in area. The application that I reviewed showed a garage of 896 square feet and didn't detail the height. So there would be a variance request of 396 square feet larger than what the ordinance allows. Also, our zoning.
I just want to clarify, on the application says 806 feet.
896 square feet, based upon the application that I reviewed.
Okay, this is on the project.
Okay.
Okay. The next item that would need relief from would be section 172-103 F6. Our ordinance under that section limits accessory structures in cumulative total to no more than 600 square feet. Obviously, with this structure being 896, you would need relief from that as well. And then lastly, as I calculated it from the plan that I reviewed, the building coverage limited to 20% under our ordinance. The coverage shown on this lot would be 24.6. So they're the items that are before you.
All right. So I feel like my first question here is why so big? You know, people come in here and they're, showing proof of hardship, why they need something like this. And I understand looking at this saying, great, I want to take down what's there, but why such an excessively sized garage?
So the garage currently, I heard him talk about the height is actually 16 feet, and the new one's going to be actually smaller. It's going to be 14 feet. So I don't know if that was included in the drawing. So technically it's smaller when it comes to height. Square footage, it's a little bit bigger. It's 4 feet deeper and 4 feet wider too. I'm pretty sure it might be, is it 5 and 4, or is it than the existing? So it's roughly like 4 feet deeper, but I mean, that does make a big difference in square footage. That's why 800 to 600 is what it sounds like, but really it's just, a few feet bigger in my eyes. And the reason why I wanted it a little bit bigger is so I can fit 2 vehicles in the garage. Because currently you can't do it. I have 2 trucks, so putting them in there, they currently don't fit in my current garage. So having a little bit bigger would make it accessible for that, and I would not have to park everything on the street and have it visible to all the neighbors.
So is part of this plan also that you're going to be doing a driveway back to this garage as well?
And that was one thing that was missed in the drawing, but my plan and Henry's plan was to create like a drainable driveway, clean crushed stone, maybe the small red clean stone for the finished driveway, and that would be on the First Avenue side. And then I would also run all the downspouts into drainage bins into easy flow, probably 50-gallon tanks or whatever the township may consider. I would help.
But you would have to deal with stormwater management just based on the size being over 500 square feet, right? Yeah.
Putting a driveway in the front yard and on First Ave? That's your plan?
Is there one to the current garage?
It's like right up against the street.
Yeah.
There's a small pad.
Yeah,
But on the
there-
back, isn't it true that on the other side of the garage, it has two doors? There's a padded, macadam padded area, correct?
Correct,
Where you park a truck now, and you also have a trailer back there.
correct.
And I looked at the deed, and the lot size is 37 feet wide by 60 feet. Does that sound about right?
Yes.
I guess I kind of go back to what was asked earlier. The garage that's there now, it could use some fixing up, that's for sure. But it seems to accommodate two cars, or could accommodate two cars without expanding it deeper into the 37 width lot. I'm trying to get an understanding of why such an increase of 396 square feet is needed.
I mean, with all due respect, I've tried, I cannot fit my vehicle in the garage, so that's kind of the whole reason.
Is that the truck that has the,
No, it's my other one, just
it's not the one
regular
that's parked
pickup.
next to it?
Nope,
Can I ask you another question?
go ahead.
Because when I went by today, there was a black, I think it was a Maxima parked out front,
Okay,
and behind it was the stake for the notice sign for the variance relief you saw, and there was no notice on it. Do you
Oh.
live at that house?
yes, so that was actually the storm we got. I think it was one of my neighbors actually said, hey, your sign has blown off the little stake. So that was up this whole time. So I guess you happened to drive by. I didn't take that down by any means. All my neighbors are very aware of this process. And I think it was blown off by the wind.
And I do believe on the USB, there is a photo of the state of the garage, the inside of the garage. Just,
And not that I'm even concerned about the current state of the existing garage, but more again, in asking for relief and what those
That's
minimum
fine.
requirements are, and looking just online in a quick Google search, a standard two-car garage size, it says 18 feet wide, 20 feet deep, which would come out to 360 square feet. So I think in looking at this and trying to find a way to give you that minimum relief, it just seems excessive, in my opinion. I'm not speaking for the board. And I also get wanting to have a larger garage, why not? But just that's why I was going back to my original question, saying why so large? How humongous are these trucks?
They're not humongous at all by any means. I do have other power equipment that I'd like to put in there too. So it's not really, it's kind of like extra room. It's kind of like the whole reason why I wanted to do it, to have excess room in the back or kind of like the side to store equipment. Pretty much it.
Is there anything unique about this lot or unusual or creates some level of hardship why you can't build something smaller? Is there anything special about the lot? It looks pretty, square.
Is there any way we can pull up the pictures of the current existing garage?
I think you're taking that garage down, so
Right.
that's really
Yes.
not particular to the property itself.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, is this just, you want something a little bigger because you got two trucks and
I mean, I need something bigger for equipment and trucks. Yes, correct.
May I ask what type of equipment we're talking about?
pretty much the main equipment would just be lawn mowers, all sorts of landscaping equipment. But lawn mowers would be the biggest piece of equipment that I own.
Are you a landscaper? Is that,
Yes, sir.
so this is to accommodate business equipment?
Yes, sir, but I'm not running the business out of the garage. I just need somewhere to put it so it's not on the street. And I think it would improve the neighborhood as well.
Is it currently on the street?
One, yeah, that is, because I can't even, it's unsafe to,
Streets are narrowing.
yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
Is all this equipment there now? Or will
No,
you
it's
build
in the existing
and then
garage,
bring
kind of on like
more?
one side, the side that doesn't have rainwater coming through and snow coming through.
But all the
other side
equipment
is-
you plan on putting, all the cars and equipment you plan on putting in the new garage are already on this site somewhere. Or you're going to build the garage and then bring in more equipment because you now have a large
No,
garage.
what I currently have is what's going to be going in there, and I did it purposely this size to maintain what I have that will accommodate all of the equipment I have and the 2 trucks.
So for your landscaping business, do you have another location that you're running that out of though? Because you're just.
Yes, I do have another garage that's very small that I keep certain equipment, but it'd be nice to, not be parking stuff on the street and, like I said before, have bigger garage to maintain all my stuff. And I think it would improve the neighborhood.
Is your existing garage more typical of what's in around your neighborhood in terms of other of your neighbors' garages versus what you're intending to build?
Would you mind repeating that? I'm
Well,
sorry.
is the existing garage that you want to take down, is that typical of the garages in your neighborhood?
I would say yes. So I actually went around this week and I looked, there's 14 other 2-car garages. I want to say like 8 of those 14 are barely bigger than the one that I'm trying to put in. So it's pretty, yeah, there's a couple that are much bigger than the one that I'm proposing. And some are about the same size, I'd say, but it's very common for people in my neighborhood. I have a feeling too, for these garages.
And I just want to, excuse me, but sir, you did ask if his existing garage is similar to the ones in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind Henry that his existing garage does not look like any of the neighbor's garage because his existing garage looks
Well, I'm
like
not
it's
suggesting,
going to.
I'm not suggesting appearance,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the dimensions.
Yeah, and I would say even the dimensions, it's an awkward looking garage. It's got like 16 feet in height on one section, and then the left side, it's
Yeah, it's got like an addition. It
it's
looks
got
like.
like this weird addition, and that's
Yeah.
the side that's really failing.
Well-
So I would say it's kind of awkward, and it does not resemble other garages in the neighborhood.
No, and I
So
think
just
we're all
wanna
in
make sure.
agreement that it's not a pretty shed and that's going to go away. And I think for the most part, we're all trying to wrap our heads around the size of what you want to put in. And again, the whole idea is seeking, minimum relief here. And is there
Yeah, what's your
something more
hardship?
accommodating? What can we do something that's not so excessive? Because it is a lot that you're asking for in terms of the garage size. Well, how big is your house? How many square feet is the house on the property?
I know it's on the plans. We don't have the plans in front of us.
Steve, did you pull up the site plan? Because there's a couple of questions I want to.
It's actually titled under the permit info. It's the second page.
Are there any plans of what it will look like, of elevation
I
yet?
I know that you can go ahead and tell them your struggle with the company that's creating the.
They're not in here. They're not in here. I don't.
No,
Nah.
yeah. we just
There's
want
nothing
see
here
a
tonight to
rendering.
look at.
Yeah,
okay.
there's nothing, yeah. Nothing.
Right.
Okay, but it is
That's
14 feet in height. I know
So
that.
it is, I've actually already purchased this garage, so that's kind of, and it is, I've been pushing them off to get this permit, or this variance, until I'm hoping that I would get accepted. So I've been pushing them off, but it's just an A-frame. Right now, as he was saying, the one side slanted, it's like 16 feet on the one side and then like 10 on the other. It's not like a typical A-frame roof. this new garage would be an A-frame roof, pretty standard, two 10-foot doors in the front, which would be on Malley, right? Malley Ave or Malley Street would be.
Which is not, looking
Which
at this
yeah,
is
you're
not correct, right?
correct.
Malley
First
is,
Ave, I'm sorry. First
well,
Ave.
no,
First
just to
Ave.
clarify, on this diagram, which is in the record, the streets are improperly labeled, correct? Mallard is on the left side and First is down at the bottom.
That should be Malley.
Yeah, that's,
All
yeah.
right, just to make sure I'm.
Is it
Okay, I just
labeled
noticed that.
incorrectly?
So, yeah, Malley would be where the garage is and First Ave would be in the front of my house.
Right.
Um,
And I believe there's another set of drawings where the street name is.
Right, I'm just
Correct.
trying to,
Yeah.
this is the one that shows ironically the most, but
That's my, that's his architectural work. And then I'm the one who did all the dotted
I hear
lines
you.
to the
Done.
proposed section.
on this one.
I mean, from the township's perspective, and I don't know how much testimony we would need on this, but residential properties are to be used for residential uses. And, I get, a truck that you drive back and forth, work truck, but it's your personal truck, it's your transportation. But it's the equipment that causes a concern for me. And, we really haven't heard the testimony. I don't know how much we have to get into it, and we can, but let me articulate my concern first. When a township allows folks to expand their physical structures and uses and spend money in furtherance of an existing business, you're giving tacit approval to that business. And then later on, when you get a complaint from a neighbor saying, hey, this guy's operating a business out of his house, they say, wait, you let me build this and you knew I had a landscaping equipment in here. And so it blocks the township from being able to do anything. It's called a variance by estoppel. And that's not, I know he's not here to get a variance for commercial uses, but this is where the concern lies. And I mean, with that, I can ask just a couple questions, but that's where I want to get at. So this is commercial equipment that you use for the landscaping business. You have another off-site premises, but that's not big enough. Is that the issue?
Correct.
So is it that, do you rent that other place?
Yeah, I do, yes.
Yeah. So do you have employees that come to the house to get this equipment?
No,
But how is it that you get the equipment to where it's got to be used?
I have trailers. I drive it over to meet people. I have a location where either I pick up my employees or I have some at the other garage that I have that's fairly small. That's kind of like a family friend that, he's got a garage that,
But you got to bring the equipment when it's needed from your house to the other place.
correct. Well, all of my customers are not, I actually have customers in my current neighborhood in the 1st through 4th Avenue. I don't know if that matters, but I have to bring that equipment out no matter what, regardless. I'm not technically running the business out of my garage. I'm just using that to store it. I think it's pretty normal. A lot of people, I think, do that.
Well, having a couple signs or billboards in your garage or something, the signs or hand tools and stuff like that. But when we're talking about landscape equipment and trailers and stuff, I think that's where it might switch over into being a commercial use. And the fear, like I said, from a township perspective is you allow an expansion to store commercial equipment. You're essentially saying, hey, you can run this. I don't think the township has a problem with the setback issue. Reconfiguring the garage to make it nicer and, be in a better location, improve it for the neighborhood. I think where the problem is coming is the additional size for that. Even if there's just some additional size just for general, general stuff, but you have 2 trucks that you drive around. But where we start getting into storing commercial equipment and giving that extra size, that's the 2 problems. Number one, tacit approval of commercial operation. Number two, is it really needed? I mean, you know, gotta rent a bigger spot somewhere.
On the same train of thought, I believe you testified that the garage doors were 10 feet,
They are 10 by 10 feet. Yep.
10 foot tall.
Yes, yes, sir.
A typical residential garage door is 7 feet.
Right.
So the appearance
Yeah.
of that is different, I mean, would be different than what I would normally think of as a residential garage. And that kind of goes towards Mr. Sephor's concern in regard to
Sorry.
commercial use.
Can I make one more comment about, so he was talking about the, you know, when it gets to the amount of equipment, when it comes to like being commercial. I mean, I have I'd say fairly large landscaping business that I've started. But when it comes to equipment, I don't have anything crazy that's, you know, all the neighbors are very aware of what I have currently. I do a lot of work for all of my neighbors. And I think I have two larger pieces of equipment, two lawnmowers that are like not crazy big, anything by any means. So it's not like I'm gonna be having tree shredders or anything bizarre in this garage. That's gonna be, it's no by any means commercial use, like huge equipment. It's just typical, you know, just so you guys are aware of that too.
Can I make a suggestion too? And I don't even know how this would work, or if we, you know, continue this application. But my advice or suggestion is to maybe take this back and reconsider what you're asking for here, rather than us deny an application or just shut it down. I'd rather see you go back and say, you know what? Maybe I was asking for an excessive amount. What's the minimum size I could do here, and go back to the board with that. So I don't want to deny it. And then you're, you know, I know it costs money to come here and ask for this. So I really think you should reconsider and maybe come back with the renderings of what that's going to look like. I don't want to be the one that we come here and tell you what size it should be, but I would rather you, you know, consider, and I have to agree with Mr. Sikora. It's a great point that later on, you know, you are storing equipment in there, right? Because you got this done, no one's monitoring that, and suddenly it looks like we're allowing people to run businesses out of there. And we've seen that happen here a lot, where people get frustrated with somebody running a business out of there. Right now, the neighbors over there could be fine with it. New neighbors move in, they're not. And that look of that garage with two 10 by 10 garage doors, that's not a standard garage door you're gonna see in a residential neighborhood. And I think that does change the character of the neighborhood. And I really think that that's something you should consider doing.
I'd like to offer something as well, before you respond. I think.
Turn your mic on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Coming into this tonight, you know, and being prepared to, you have to prove to the board that in order for us to grant you the variance, there's a burden of proof on your side in your testimony where it's the hardship wasn't created by you. So there's code, and you can look it up, or we, you know, there's a couple criteria. The hardship was not created by you. The relief that you're asking for is the minimum variance, and that you're not going to alter the character of the neighborhood. So I think being prepared to prove those things, you know, might play into Kevin's, you know, comments here about maybe rather than making a decision tonight, that we give you the opportunity to do that and continue it.
Continue meaning we just postpone the hearing, come back, you know, next month or whenever you're ready, and present this additional information that everybody's asking about. The other alternative is they can actually just rule, you know, it doesn't sound like, doesn't sound like they're inclined, I'm not ruling for them, but it doesn't sound like they're inclined just to say yes. So you would have to reapply with something different and pay all those fees and everything, repost it, where you could just come back and say, okay, let's keep this open. I waive any deadlines that may be pending. I don't think there's any deadlines pending. And then come back and try to address these issues, like what's it going to look like? Why do you need this? Exactly how much do you need? Can you make it smaller? Can you make the door smaller?
You mentioned you purchased it already. Is it a prefabricated unit?
Yes, it's kind of like install it in, I think, 2 days. They come and they just put it up, wall, roof, pretty
Like a
self
pole barn?
similar, yes. Like
The
made out of
look would be helpful.
tin roof, metal roof. Sorry,
But a wood structure? Or is this a metal structure?
metal, right?
Fabricated, it's a prefabricated unit,
Yes, sir.
right? You just put it together, you know.
Bring
Yes,
those
sir.
drawings in, show us what it looks
Yeah.
like.
It
but
sort of drops in.
I would suggest changing the
I just
size.
wanted to mention to the board, we also have a provision about garages, accessory buildings in a front yard.
Yeah.
And that has some limitations on height, and also we have to be landscape. So I just want to add that dimension as well. So I think the recommendation from the township solicitor that you take another hard look at the proposal might be to your advantage.
Manufactured.
Okay.
See
I have one more question. What is the minimum amount of variance that like you're recommending that I kind of
Well,
like,
even now,
when
we're,
it comes to square footage?
for what, 600 is what you're saying is the
there's-
maximum you were saying, right? But for this,
Well, the R3 limits detached accessory structures like this garage to 500 square feet. It also has a provision for a cumulative total of accessory structures over the entire lot. So if there were another shed on the property,
Yeah.
the total area of both those buildings can't exceed 600.
gotcha.
So the proposed building is exceeding all of that.
There's no other structure other than the house, there's no other sheds or garages. or
The one that's there that's going
This
away
is
is the only other one.
Yes, sir.
Right,
Yep.
so this would be the only one. So 500 would be the ordinary size that you could do.
I think
You got a 500 and a 100.
correct, yeah, my existing garage is over 500 right now currently. I think it's grandfathered in or.
And what, and how big is that one? How
What
big is that one, the existing one?
that is, so that is 26 by 21, right? And then the new one's gonna be 30 by 25. And the 31 by 26 is where the roof is, but the frame of the house is 25 by 30. So I guess square footage wise, that is bigger. But when I was thinking about it, like I did all the measurements for like where the amount of space I need for my equipment, I was thinking, it's only a couple feet bigger, how much of a difference can it make? But I guess it really did. So I'm willing to come back
So
and.
the current one's
you know,
26 by 21, that's 546.
Correct.
Could I ask,
Yeah.
while you're here, in case you come back and to make that decision? I'm trying to understand one of the photographs or one of in the plan, what I'm seeing. And I don't know if you can get it up. It's not. Yeah, it's the plan that's listed as proposed garage demolition and new construction.
The first app site plan. Labeled. Yes, sir.
So the upper middle drawing, it has some areas that are crisscross and then some that have printing on them. And I'm trying to understand what the difference is between those two. Is that all part of the garage?
I believe actually that was the proposed driveway, but the architect that did that, when I communicated that they wanted to see a driveway, I told him to put it in the front of the garage, but he thought that I wanted it on the side of the garage. So that crisscross is actually, should be in the front on Malley Street towards the front of the garage,
So-
not on the side.
The driveway would be the entire length of the existing house essentially.
Are the garage doors going along Malley, facing Malley or facing?
Yes, sir. They are now currently, and the new ones will be the same thing. It's just being
Would
shifted.
enter the
over.
garage from
Yeah,
that
so that's
side
a-
street, Malley.
Yeah,
You wouldn't have a driveway going from First all the way along the back. of the-
No, it would just be like almost like a small like apron and
Which is
then
different than what-
we could maybe park something.
I would
next to
maybe
it.
tighten up your drawings then too for that next meeting
I was
and
gonna
come
say,
back with,
this depiction is not accurate then.
yeah. The street names are wrong, right? On one of them.
These are
and-
correct. The
This
other
one's,
ones
this is
aren't drawn.
this is the drawing that we have. The other one's a rough sketch, correct?
But
Yeah.
so is this correct from a setback perspective and everything? Because these look different than the hand-drawn version. Either way, it's
It should be, he pretty much made the drawings from that drawing that you saw. So,
Trying to work it here, so just
Absolutely.
seeing a,
and I get, yeah, I have an astigmatism, so I can't really see the screens that well either.
Yeah,
to
can
be
you,
honest.
I can't read on mine. Can you read the dimensions of the house off of that plan?
You will see that either, yeah.
You even zoomed in, you're not gonna be able to see them.
Yeah, so there would be.
Yeah, once you go in all the way, it's blurred, so you're not gonna.
Okay.
Is there do you have a partnership here in this project?
No.
Or you simply own the property and?
Yes,
this is
yes.
the contract? There's no partnership or collaboration on
No,
using this structure, right?
No.
absolutely not. I have a commercial business in Havertown. I have commercial garages.
And then Andrew's a co-owner of the house, right?
Yes, sir.
Is he related to you, I assume?
Yes, he's my father.
Your father, okay. Does he reside there as well?
No.
Does you reside there?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a note. I've been in business. It'll be 10 years this August, and then Henry is fresh in business, so he's going through the struggles of starting his own business, and and so if there would be anything in the future,
This
that we
isn't
could
for
use it,
business, right?
that we could. What?
This isn't for business.
Of course not.
Okay.
That was-
But no, I mean, we want to make that clear.
yeah,
that-
I want to make that clear.
And,
too.
and again, we're trying to be
But
very
I
receptive
appreciate,
to
but I was
yourself.
thinking about that because you look like a fine young man. And I imagine you're going to be successful. And I hear the concerns that township solicitor says.
Yeah.
And I think your business is only going to get better and better.
Absolutely.
And then what's that going to do to the demand on this land? So that's part of the concern.
Absolutely. And I would have faith that he wouldn't be using this garage for business purposes and that he would need a much bigger place somewhere else to serve all of his equipment needs. And the only thing that he would use this garage for would be for his trucks and for his whatever he might words or whatever
But the
storage
appear-
boxes and stuff like that.
The appearance and the size as you're making an application suggests that it is in fact for business until he outgrows it. And that's part of the problem we're having with it. That's the struggle we're having. So I think the board wants to work with you. I think it behooves you to rethink it, talk to your contractor, talk to the architect, talk to the company that you're buying the purchase from, and maybe you can work it out and come back here and give it your best shot.
Okay.
I understand it's difficult for you because you
Yeah.
made a commitment, obviously. But
One of the things you don't.
yeah. Yes.
So April 21st.
Cease to impress me.
I can be ready. I can be ready in the third Thursday in April.
Are you requesting a continuance?
Yes, sir.
Up to the
Brandon, I'm okay with that. If the rest of the board is, so they're
Approve of that.
April 21st.
April 21st, yeah. All right. Yeah, we have to, I guess, because all new testimony, so. All right. All right, we'll see you on the 21st.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Everything, so. Oh. That's it. I'm sorry, you had something you wanted to say, right? That's right. When we close it out then, yeah, we'll see you in a month. Oh, thank you.
And this was like the fastest one ever.
It's not big.
That's what I bring to the table.
Thank Mike Sheridan.
They want to get away from me.
Yeah. Listen,